Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, running through some trade packages. This is not going to be fun. We are going to have to pull out some very important organs in the Denver Broncos body, but it is necessary to hopefully turn this thing around and get this team back to the winning column in the future. So let's talk rebuild, and let's talk the 5 best trade assets for the Broncos, what they could get for them, and whether or not they should make that trade. And let's get started with the number 1, which is, of course, cornerback Patrick Surtain. So if you want to talk about getting the most for a player on this roster, this is the guy. So if you really want to hit the biggest reset button ever, trading Surtain is going to get you the most in return. However, please do not trade Patrick Surtain. I have said this so many times on our channel before. I am making my stance very clear. I do not want the Broncos to trade Patrick Surtain away. If they trade him away, they're just going to have to try and find someone to replace these types of numbers, and they're not going to be able to, right? 7 interceptions already in his NFL career, 30 pass breakups. You look at the coverage stats as well, 54% completion percentage, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. Patrick Surtain is just a lockdown corner. You are not finding another cornerback in the draft that can replace Patrick Surtain. You might find a new starting corner, but he's not going to be as good as Patrick Surtain. He's not going to become as close to Patrick Surtain. He's not even hitting his prime. Hold on to PS2. Send other guys away. But do not lose the cornerstone piece of this franchise, the best player, for lottery tickets, right? Who's to even say these first-round picks you could get for him will even be on the team past a rookie contract? Not interested. But for those of you out there, because there are people out there that do want this team to trade Patrick Surtain, this is my best stab at it. What about the Lions, who just lost one of their starting quarterbacks, Emmanuel Mosley? 2 firsts and a third. I could see Detroit being big-time buyers at the NFL trade deadline. I think this is a fair-ish compensation for Pat Surtain, but I'm still not interested in doing it. Hard pass in my book. But let me know, if you were the GM or Sean Payton, would you trade Pat Surtain for 2 first-round picks, yes or no? I'm typing in for no. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. It's the pinned comment, so scroll on down, type Y or type yes if a YouTube ad break comes on by. Second best trade asset, Garett Bolles. You want to talk about getting good bang for your buck? Garett Bolles is going to get you some good assets in return because he has played lights-out football this year. He's been one of the best left tackles in football, one of the best overall tackles, for crying out loud. 21st out of 72 qualifying players according to PFF, an overall grade of 73.1. But look at the pass blocking. Like, if a team is trading for a left tackle mid-season, they clearly have some trust issues with their current left tackle keeping their quarterback healthy, which means they want to make sure if they're trading for a left tackle mid-year, that left tackle is going to make sure that that quarterback never has to have his jersey washed. And with a pass blocking grade of 79.3, Garett Bolles has ensured that Russell Wilson never has to worry about the blind side 99% of the time. Now, a team out there that could be interested in Garett Bolles, the Cleveland Browns come to mind because they are having big issues with their left tackle, Jedrick Wills. So what about this trade idea? Jed Wills and Garett Bolles swap places. So a left tackle swap. And in exchange for Denver giving up the better tackle, Cleveland sends over a second-round pick, but they're also taking on a pretty big contract from Denver. So as a thank you for taking on Garett Bolles' contract, the Browns also get a 2025 6th-round pick in return. I could see a little bit of a pick swap going on for Garett Bolles. Not like a day 3, 6, and 7 swap, but maybe like a 2nd and a 5th or a 2nd and a 6th, something to that tune. So if you want to talk about getting something for one of your players, Garett Bolles, I think, could get you a 2nd rounder. Third best trade asset on this roster. Now it can get a bit debatable. It was probably debatable for Garett Bolles, but I maintain Garett Bolles as a left tackle is your 2nd best asset after Patrick Surtain. But what about Jerry Jeudy? You could make an argument for some other guys we'll look at later on in the video. But Jerry Jeudy, here are the facts. He is under contract through 2024. So a team trading for him is not getting a 1-year rental, which is pretty, enticing. They're going to have him for all of next season on his fifth-year option, guaranteed money, $12.9 million. So a team trading for Jeudy knows they're not just getting him for the rest of this year, but they've got him locked up for all of next season. So that's a good amount of control for a team. And if a team were to offer a second-round pick for Jerry Jeudy, I'd do it. And the sad thing is, if the Broncos could go back in time, there were phone calls made in the offseason for Jerry Jeudy, and Denver was reportedly very stubborn, wanted a first. And now, if they don't even get a second, that feels like a major loss for the Broncos because Jerry Jeudy is off to a meh season. He missed the first game. He's been dealing with a knee injury, but he's never gone over 1,000 yards in his NFL career. And the Broncos, I'm not quite sure if Jerry Jeudy yet fields a second based on the production alone. Yes, first rounders always pop a little bit more, and teams tend to simp a little bit harder. But look at some of the trades that have gone down lately. Like, I think the Chase Claypool trade last year served as a big reminder to GMs, don't overpay for players just because they have a big name. And Jeudy right now is just that, a name, right? He's got good plays, but if you do a blind wide receiver resume, no one's taken Jerry Jeudy compared to a lot of other wide receiver 2s and even 3s in the league at the moment. So for that reason, if you can find a second, I do it. We're going to get that second from, what about the Carolina Panthers? A report came out that they want to get Bryce Young, a true wide receiver 1 to work with, and Jerry Jeudy could go over there and help Bryce Young's development. They'll have him for 2 seasons, all of this year, and then all of next season, or the rest of this year and all of next year. So Jeudy for a second to the Panthers, who's in? Because I am. Moving on to the 4th best trade asset, in my opinion, I'm going to go with Justin Simmons. Now, you can make an argument to flip-flop 3 and 4, and I'll listen to that. But Justin Simmons is hurt for a second straight season, or has missed time, I should say, for a second straight season. And most teams value wide receivers higher than safeties. How often do you see safeties go in the top half of the first round? Not very often, right? Wide receivers, they can go top 10 at times. So if wide receivers go for more and are paid more in free agency and are drafted earlier, then I think you could have a better comp or get more in return for Jerry Jeudy compared to Justin Simmons, which is why I have him behind Jeudy. Now, Simmons has been one of the best safeties in football over the last 4 years. He was tied for the league lead in interceptions last year, despite missing 5 games. I mean, really think about that. The guy missed like a third of the season, basically, and he still finished tied for number 1 in interceptions with 6. But that has not been the case so far this year. No pass breakups, no interceptions through 3 games for Justin Simmons. And it sucks because Justin Simmons is one of my favorite players on this team. But ultimately, if a team that's a contending team like the Philadelphia Eagles offer a 3rd-round pick for Justin Simmons, I would do it. And that's a, knife twist right there. That's the red wedding all over again because Simmons is an awesome player for this team. He's an awesome member of this community. But a 3rd-rounder for a guy that's getting up there in the age column, has a decently sized contract, so you get a lot of cap relief, and a day 2 draft pick in return, I'd have to say yes. My 5th ranked trade asset for this team, I'll go with Courtland Sutton. You can make arguments to move 3 through 5, but I think Jeudy being a first and being a wide receiver has him over Simmons and over Sutton. Now the question is, does Denver trade both wide receivers? Or do they want to stick with one? And if they do want to stick with one, do they want to stick with the better receiver, which right now is Courtland Sutton? Or do they want to stick with the receiver that they can get, or want to move on from the receiver that can get them more in return, right? Do they want to stick with Courtland Sutton because they can get more for Jerry Jeudy? Now, if you're moving on from Courtland Sutton, I mentioned the Houston Texans before as a potential trade destination. They seem to be looking for wide receivers just because C.J. Stroud is having a really good breakout season, and they don't have a whole lot going on down there after Tank Dell and like Nico Collins and Robert Woods. So Courtland Sutton makes some sense in my eyes, but definitely interested in seeing what you could get for either wide receiver. And I think Courtland Sutton would be this team's 5th best trade asset. Now, let's run through all the trades that we talked about on today's show. Patrick Surtain for 2 firsts and a 3rd. Then you've got Jed Wills and Garett Bolles swapping spots in Denver and Cleveland, almost like the Joe Thomas trade that nearly happened back in 2013 or no, 2015, I think it was actually. Jerry Jeudy for a second rounder to the Carolina Panthers. Justin Simmons going to the Eagles for a third round pick, or Courtland Sutton going to the Texans for a third. If you had to pick one trade, which trade would you pick? Factor in what you're getting in return based on who you're moving on from. For me, if I had to pick one trade knowing, hey, we're going to lose this guy, but we're also going to get this draft pick in return, I think I'd go with Jerry Jeudy. I think I would go with getting a second rounder for a wide receiver that in year 4 does not look like he's going to go over 1,000 yards. And he's holding on to being a first round pick. And if he was a round 2 pick, oh, how different the conversations would be about Jeudy. So for that reason, I'd move on from Jeudy and get a second.